Good afternoon, everyone. We'll get started with our working meeting for Thursday. On our agenda, we have roll call by Ms. Adams, and invocation. I will do the invocation, pledge of allegiance by Councilman Rodriguez, and acceptance of the agenda. Anything on the acceptance of the agenda? Nothing. All right. We have awards, presentations. We have 3 proclamations, which will be here on Thursday. And hopefully Weddy will be present. Fingers crossed. And we have our city manager's report, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. You notice we don't have a lot of staff here. There's a NIMS training going on here today, so a number of folks are attending that. And with it being fire season, it's a good time to do that. We've got a number of projects going on. Our veterinary services annual contract proposals are due May 6th. So as you know, we contract out for services for the animal shelter. So those are out. Invitation for bids for annual street maintenance. We have 3 bids, and those are currently under review. Architectural services for the golf center, clubhouse. We have 3 statements of qualifications in. Breckenridge Group, GH2 Architects, and Merge Architecture Group, and those are under review right now. And then we have 2 proposals for our energy performing services for the future wastewater treatment plant project, which we're anticipating starting in a couple of years. Proposals were received from the firm of Verigy and then Schneider Electric also, and we've held those interviews and pending award of that. Let's see, and then last one I have is Henry Jones Park Phase 1 construction awarded to KWR Construction, and there's a kickoff meeting April 16th, and you should see that underway here pretty soon. And that's all I have for now, and I'm sure I'll probably have a little bit more for Thursday. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions for our city manager? None. We'll proceed on. And we have our consent agenda. Any questions on the consent agenda? All right. And for our public hearing items, we have ordinance 2026-003. Staff report. Mr. Fisher, how are you, sir?
Good, sir. Thank you. All right. Okay. Greetings, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is the adoption to ordinance phase of the Development Code text amendment application staff received for CDL Nuclear Technologies. The applicant is seeking the creation of a permitting pathway for the placement of mobile medical units on property in Sierra Vista. The proposed code amendments are for a change of the definition section to define what a mobile medical unit is, the inclusion of mobile medical units in the temporary use section as a possible temporary use up to 90 days for the standard temporary use permitting process, as well as including it in our zoning matrix for conditional approval via a conditional use permit as an accessory use to existing hospitals, animal hospitals, and licensed healthcare institutions. The applicant's associate, Pima Heart and Vascular, has decided to close their Sierra Vista location, which came as a surprise to the applicant even, though this text amendment is still valid to create a permitting pathway for mobile medical units in the city of Sierra Vista. And a statement from U.S. Heart and Vascular's vice president indicated that they did seek to return to Sierra Vista at a future point in time when it was possible. The reason for the closure was due to a lack of physicians. But that concludes staff's report for now.
Thank you, sir. Are any questions, comments for Mr. Fisher? Thank you, sir, again.
Thank you.
And our next new business is resolution, action for resolution 2026-25, staff report. Ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Several weeks ago, the city manager of Wilcox, Caleb Blaschke, reached out to me to talk to me about how their building inspector was seeking jobs in Tucson and they thought that they might lose them relatively soon, and that they'd had an increase in building permit applications and plan review, and asked if our building inspection division had any capacity. I just had the conversation with Mr. McLaughlin, who shared that because of our lack of building permits and so forth, that we do have capacity in our building inspection division. And so I let Caleb know that we did have the capacity to help. And just about week and a half ago, he reached out to me and said their building inspector had accepted a job in Tucson and would be leaving in a couple of weeks. So the IGA before you would allow our building inspection division to assist Wilcox as needed with any building inspection and plan review services. City of Wilcox has agreed to pay for our employees' time plus benefits and any travel expenses to go out to Wilcox. They've agreed to schedule as efficiently as possible to group everybody on one day or so forth. This would hopefully be short-term while they look for a new employee, but building inspectors are very hard to find, pretty much around the state and around the country. So it might be some time, but they do plan to hire a new employee. We'll help get them through until then. So your approval will allow this to, for us to share our staff and to be paid for their services. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Excellent. Questions? Yes, sir.
Is the building inspector, is that an hourly employee or a salaried position?
Our two inspectors are hourly and the building official is salaried.
Okay, so who would be doing the work? So here's my question. The IGA didn't address overtime pay, and typically I would expect it to be where if overtime was required at the end of the pay period, they would pick up the overtime. That's not addressed in the IGA. So who actually would be doing the work? Both of them? One of them?
Whoever is most available and lowest cost. I don't know that we would need our building official to step in, since they are the most expensive person. We don't necessarily want
Right.
to assign our most expensive person. Wilcox is agreeing to pay for their time. We don't typically have an overtime situation in building inspection. We could always flex their time if they end up spending more than 8 hours out there.
Could we take this off the agenda to vote and then just add compensation for overtime in there, that they would pay overtime if it came?
Well, sure. I mean, I can add a line before Thursday that includes overtime.
Oh, okay, before Thursday and just add it in?
I mean, it does say that they'll pay for all of their time. So if that would
Well,
put them in.
typically, so if they bump into overtime on a Monday, or they do the work on a Monday, and then we have work for them that bumps them into overtime at the end of the pay period, who pays for the overtime?
It won't be a problem. We'll just add the line before Thursday night.
All right, good, thanks.
Our questions?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So since we're loaning our employee to go to Wilcox, does that mean that we're overstaffed then? I mean, are we overstaffed to actually give out employees? It's a question.
It's difficult to staff for the flow of building inspections and permits. When you have a situation like we do where Castle and Cook pulled out, where there aren't as many building permits. So currently we have capacity that could change very quickly. So we have capacity right now. And this will help keep them busy.
And also help Wilcox out.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I think too, Mr. Mayor, it is a good question, Councilwoman Jackson, because this has happened before in the past. Sometimes we find ourselves short when there's a lot of building. Sometimes we have capacity because of lack of building, which is the current situation. The bigger issue is what Ms. Yarborough pointed out, which is if for some reason we do get commercial building or an uptick in building, finding those inspectors to do them then becomes the problem. So this way we can keep them building, keep them busy, have somebody else help pay for their salaries while we're in this situation. We only have 3 people to begin with, so that's really more the issue is how do you find them if you do have building going on.
Councilman Kilmurray had a question.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So is this something the county could do also? If, for example, they exceeded our capacity, would they have an IGA with the county also?
I
to do
believe the
building
county
inspection?
does do this already, but Wilcox asked for our help in this situation.
Other questions?
We've had situations also where the county's asked us for help, so
Do we
it's,
have an IGA with them to cover stuff like this?
Yes.
That's an overarching one for all services though, right? Not specific to this?
I believe it's specific to building inspection and plan review.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And we'll proceed on to there it is. Item number 5. Resolution 2026-026, donation of 2014 Ford Explorer. Staff report, Chief.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council. With this resolution, I'm seeking permission to donate one of our surplus patrol vehicles to Cochise College for the local police academy that we are in a partnership with. This is one of our patrol vehicles that was already on our replacement plan with fleet to be removed from our current fleet. And when we donate these items to Cochise College, we still get a payback, so to speak, in the sense that this particular vehicle, being a 2014 Ford Explorer, valued at $3,500, although we could auction that off, we actually get a benefit and actually a financial benefit by donating it to the college, because that vehicle will then be used for the EVOC training, and we don't have to provide our current fleet vehicles for that training. That training is very hard on vehicles. It's very hard on transmissions, very hard on tires, very hard on brakes. I would much rather have a surplus vehicle that they maintain and we can use for vehicle training rather than send over. If they didn't have some donated vehicles, what we'd have to do is send our recruits over with some of our current fleet vehicles. So we see a benefit out of this. The value is approximately $3,500, and it is also going to, accompanying it will be its emergency lights. Interestingly, with those, we can't sell those to the public and auction that off. And we also, that particular model of Ford Explorer is no longer being used by police agencies, and so it's not even repurposable, so it's just going to go with it. And we have several other surplus vehicles that we are going to be auctioning off still. This is just one that we'd like to give to Cochise College. With that, I'll entertain any questions.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, comments? All right, excellent. Thank you, sir. And item number 6, Resolution 2026-27, restatement of the city's commitment to fair housing. Staff report. Mr. McLaughlin's not here. Candace.
Mr. Mayor, this is the city's annual commitment to fair housing
Yes, ma'am.
resolution. April is Nationally Fair Housing Month, and that commemorates the passage of the Fair Housing Act of 1968. That act established a national policy to eliminate housing discrimination and promote equal housing opportunities for all people. The city remains committed to affirmatively furthering fair housing and continues to promote awareness of fair housing rights and responsibilities. And as part of that ongoing commitment, annually, council adopts a fair housing resolution and proclaims April as Fair Housing Month. And that's what this resolution will accomplish.
Excellent. So we'll have that, and we'll close out with comments and requests of the council and adjournment. And for tonight, we have 3 items on the schedule on the docket. Our first is discussion on the Paradigm contract. This stems from an email from Councilman Kimari asking for further discussion in the Paradigm contract for O&M work. And I'll turn it over to him, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the reason I asked for this is when I can't remember, it was one of the briefings we got as an update to for the contract. And one of the things that stood out to me was the fact that we've hired a contractor to do the work. My understanding is the contractor does very good at the work, and the golf course is in very good shape. But there's O&M money, parks O&M money going into the using park employees, city employees, to be doing O&M work at the golf course. I think it was planting flowers and doing landscape maintenance. And then there was a comment by Chuck that concerned me also, that if we don't allow the contractor to make a decent profit and make money, we're gonna be looking for another contractor, which is a concern to me. So two things I would like to discuss with council and the staff. Laura's not here today, is, first of all, get answers to the question, why are we doing O&M for a contractor? And how big of a problem and how big of a risk really is it that Paradigm could possibly back out of this contract, leaving us in a lurch? Is that actually a problem, or is it just an offhanded statement? I could think that part would be addressed to you, Chuck.
Well, Mayor McCaw, Councilmember Kilmurray, I've been in discussions with Paradigm off and on, a number of things, and they have put a lot of investment into the golf course, and of course, we continue to have complaints going on with the in-range system and different things, and I'm sure it's just a very frustrating thing. One of the issues that they brought up to us was the electrical costs, utility costs that were eating into their profits or potential profits. I can't really say they're profiting or anything like that yet, but they put a lot of investment in there. I know a couple of the projects, and it is our land, underlying land, so we still have some liability associated with owning that land. Good example is the money that was spent on the bridge repair on, I believe it's hole 15. My wife and I walk out there, it was in terrible shape, and run the risk of breaking or having somebody fall through it as they're going across. So I saw some liability there. They shared the cost with us to do that. Same goes with the sidewalk. So there's nothing in the contract that prevents us from spending funds on our property, particularly when it comes to liability issues and other small maintenance issues. So I don't really see that as a contract issue per se. And we have all the costs here associated, and we can go through some of that if you care to. But there is some frustration, I think, on the part of the contractor at times, because we keep revisiting these things, and I think they're doing a very good job. And I would hate to lose them because, one, if we didn't take over the golf course and didn't find Paradigm, we would be stuck maybe with a contractor that wouldn't care to share and give us money back off of their profits. They would simply give us a price, have us go ahead and operate it, and then they would take the revenue, and whatever the difference was, they would just send us a bill. Worse yet is if the city was operating the golf course, we would have all the personnel issues, all the personnel costs, all the operating vehicles and maintenance equipment, as well as the materials needed to keep up the golf course. So I think we have a very good vendor out there who's doing an excellent job. I don't think we could find a better one, and I just hate to see that put into jeopardy as we move on through there. I think they're I just don't think it's good business to do that.
So my specific question on that is, do we actually have a risk of Paradigm pulling out of this contract?
Well, the contract does allow for 30-day provisions to leave, so.
Okay, so it allows, do we have?
I don't have anything specific
Is
from
this a
them right
risk?
now, no, I don't. And I hope it stays that way.
So if we're able to have the Parks Department doing landscaping maintenance, et cetera, on the park, do we have, kind of goes on what Faye was asking, do we have excess capacity within the Parks Department to be working on here, and we're pulling people away? Those are what my concerns are. We've hired a contractor to do the job, and we need to hold the contractor's feet to the fire to do what we've hired them to do. And you've said, well, sometimes we'll help them out. Help them out in a business sense is how far does that go and where are those lines drawn? And do we need to redraw and add, terms to the contract? Because it's very clear, if there's anything beyond a certain dollar amount, I think it was $10,000, that they're responsible for taking care of, otherwise it gets put to us, asked for us to pay for it. So it's that specific term actually does say that they do all the work up to a certain dollar amount, rather than us just following in on the contract and doing the work for them. We have finite resources we need to be using on our other parks, correct?
Yeah, but I don't think that situation really arises that often. So I'm not sure,
do you
I'm not
have-
sure what you're getting at.
Do
so.
you have the figures for how much of the O&M that the city's been paying toward the golf
Mm-hmm.
course?
Yeah, for example, fiscal year '26 to date, we've spent almost $33,000 in O&M expenses out there. And almost 20,000 of it was for the well assessment, which was called out in the contract that we have responsibility for. So you're talking about $10,000 of O&M expenses
Right.
this current fiscal year. So
Those
so I'm not
$10,000
seeing that as a big thing.
Well, 10,000, okay, we're back to $10,000, not a big thing, and we're about to look at the revenues in the budget. So $10,000 is a big thing. When $10,000 is a big thing over, so I come back to, why are we spending excess and there is no change to the contract that addresses why we paid for the $10,000? All the other improvements that the city's made, for example, paying for the driving range and those expenses have been not options, but modifications to the contract. And these contracts haven't been.
Oh, I just had to clarify with Victoria, it was the bridge, that was the other 10.
And why didn't we have a modification of the contract where they asked, it's gonna exceed the $10,000, the city's gonna pay for it, modification to the contract?
We split the costs with them for it because I felt it was a liability issue that needed to be
I
addressed.
understand this, and it sounds like good reasoning to me. Why didn't we make a modification to the contract to do that?
We didn't have to.
But every other improvement that we have made with the contract has been, or other modifications to the contract have been modifications to the contract. Where we have, pages, several pages of addendums.
Well, I mean, for example, we're working on a contract addendum for the utility costs that will benefit both the city and the contractor once the Schneider's project is done. So that contract amendment is being worked on.
Right.
But it's a larger sum, so I have the authority to do small sums. And for the bridge, it was expedient for us to do that, so I went ahead and did that.
So what is the?
So I'll take responsibility for that.
Okay, so where's the threshold for where we just do it without a contract mod? According to the contract, I believe it's $10,000. I could be wrong on that figure. I don't have anybody from contracts here to.
We have the city attorney here.
Mayor, Councilmember Kamuri, I believe you are referring to, I just had it here. There is a $10,000 cap that anything over, here we go. This is under section 2F, Paradigms responsible for funding quote-unquote operational capital repairs and replacements totaling 3% operating revenues. Operational capital repairs is defined as items under $10,000, and then examples include toilet repairs, concrete repairs, etc. Does not include the capital expenditure items listed in the schedule above, which there is no schedule. I haven't reviewed the schedule, but if any items exceed $10,000, Paradigm would discuss the cost with the city. So there is a $10,000 cap
Right.
for Paradigm. I mean, one of the foundational principles of contract law is that a party can waive a requirement if that requirement is for its benefit, right? And so, I don't know, I'm not giving policy guidance here, but if those who are contracting with Paradigm, those who are tasked with carrying out the purposes of the contract feel like a certain expenditure would benefit the city, they can waive the requirement that Paradigm does it 100%, as long as that requirement would be for our benefit, right? And so, the city manager has the authority. I don't know if there's a threshold. There's nothing in the contract that sets a threshold. We did an amendment to the contract for the lighting, which was about $66,000, right? $10,000 a little bit different than 66. I don't know that doesn't answer your question as to where that threshold is, but there's a $10,000 cap for Paradigm
Right,
before they
we
come
have a
asking
cap,
for
we have-
it.
We have the option, and one of the concerns when I talk to citizens is that the golf course, among other things, becomes a money suck. And when we nickel and dime ourselves to death, helping them out, your reasoning for the bridge is perfectly reasonable. But I would expect that to be a contract mod, something that they asked us to do, we'd see it in writing, it gets documented and annotated as part of our expenditures, not just lumped into a big chunk of, here's our year-to-date stuff we're doing at the golf course, because right now, it looks like a $30,000 money suck just to the golf course at the expense of everything else having to do with parks and recreation. I mean, am I alone in my concern among the city council? Keep talking to Chuck, but I intended to really talk to you guys about this, and what are you hearing about because I don't want the golf course to fail. I want the golf course to be successful, and I want I'd like Paradigm to continue to be the operator, because it's a good idea, in my opinion. But I also don't want it to become a money suck at the expense of our other programs. So,
Myself, I don't think it's the money. It's like $20,000 for the well. Definitely a liability with the bridge.
Right.
If somebody walk across it, our citizens, I rather initiate what the city manager did instead of getting a lawsuit for $2 million.
I agree. So why wouldn't we put that as a addendum to the contract? Like everything else that we've done.
Sometimes, like contract law, he has the ability, he has the authority to act on the behalf of the city to initiate funding, get it done.
Okay.
I like the obviously the proactive approach, because we've been sued before for a bridge in the particular other bridge in the city where someone fell through it. But so I do like the foresight on that, and the way it's explained, I think is a much better. I think is a much better understanding whether just throwing a $30,000 number out there. When you break it down to, hey, this is for the well, that really, I think, puts things in more perspective than just saying it's a $30,000 loss that we took or that we put into the project. So I think maybe just if it's explained better, broken down better that way, and that aspect to it shows like, okay, it wasn't just a full $33K that we just gave to the vendor, even though it is a partnership. And I think that's the most important part of this, is that it is a partnership. And I agree, yes, we should catalog everything and keep track of everything for future use, but or just our records. But the other part of that is, on the other hand, is we definitely have to remain a good partner with them, because they have been a good partner for us and really helped us out when we were given this horrible situation of no other choice. So I'm thankful that they did, and they give us the agreement that we're in right now with the profit sharing, et cetera, like Chuck mentioned. So the fact that they are, been a good partner to us, and not that everything should be just be a handshake deal, right? We should be cataloging things like that, but I think in this case, just maybe annotating out so it's more for public record to say, hey, look, this is how much money we spent on what the particular item was, I guess.
A little bit of transparency, itemization. I mean, when we were talking about it last time, I think it was identified as landscaping. And And apparently, it wasn't just landscaping. They're substantial items.
Well, as I mentioned, 30,000 was spent this current fiscal year.
Right.
20 for the well assessment, which was called out in the contract as a specific item that we were responsible for and that we're working on, and the other 10 for the bridge. So I took the responsibility because I felt it was a liability to the city to have that broken bridge out there, to partner with Paradigm to get it fixed. That's what I did. It's accounted for. The numbers are there. The money's there, and we have it itemized.
Yeah. Oh. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. I don't know, so I'm not sure if the problem or the concern is about the bridge and the well. I feel like when we went into this, the well was put out front, that it was something we'd have to take care of. And then the bridge, as was mentioned, is a liability issue. So is that the problem? Or is the problem some of these little things like gardening and planting flowers and stuff? I'm kind of not sure what the whole issue.
For me, if that were the issue, that would be my issue. Chuck explained it, and this is the first time I've heard what the explanation, what the itemization for that $30,000 for the year-to-date has been. Last time I asked the question, it was for landscaping and some unknown amount of O&M that we're doing for the contract. And that's where my concern was.
Yeah, there was some landscaping associated with the removal of the pool.
Oh, okay. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I do feel it's important to kind of have that transparency and have everything put out there, so there's not any confusion, and having some sort of documentation is always a really good idea. So I think that would be helpful to have something like that. That way there's no questions on what happened where, or, things are being moved around or anything like that. And as far as like the concern about if Paradigm's supposed to do something below a certain amount, it's kind of, I guess if you take it to like a household type of example, like if you have two partners in a household and there's an agreement that, you empty the dishwasher, or I don't know, and then I'll do this, if somebody doesn't empty the dishwasher, eventually somebody's going to have to. Is it going to be the person that agreed to do it, or is someone else going to kind of step in and take care of that? So I don't know if there's some concern about us kind of stepping in and taking care of things that we shouldn't. I don't know. I think it is important too that the golf course does look nice. So just to have some. So like let's say it's a dishwasher, you need to empty it and take care of it. So sometimes you just gotta do it real quick. I don't know, because it's a partnership and it benefits our community as a whole. So I don't know.
Other questions on the dais? Other discussion items? Or more discussion items? Anyone
Ryan?
else?
No, I'm good.
Okay, so, go ahead, Faye.
Go ahead.
Nope, you go.
No, I think the questions that you asked are actually really good questions. I believe what you're trying to purvey is that we're just not throwing money out, just throw it out there. Because a lot of times we talk about things as like money here, money there. 10,000 is a little money, 15,000. What in reality is really is a lot of money once we begin to add up, and we can't account for it. And I believe that's what he's trying to make sure that we get out there to the public, let them know where the money's really going. Because we do have those moments. Well, it was only this, it was only that, but it's money, so it's not only this and only that. In that case, we could have threw 15,000 to the police department for a promotion and incentives, or firefighters or whatever. We can't talk about it like that, because it does matter to the public where the money goes, and that's it.
It makes my face twitch when we talk about $10,000 being chump change.
I didn't say it was chump change. It's public money. But it was money that I felt needed to be spent
And I
to
don't-
reduce a liability issue.
I don't have a problem with that.
So I would never say the public funds are chump change. So you said it, I didn't say that, okay? So let's make that clear on who said that.
Okay, sure. So moving in the future, can we have better accounting then? When we get a report on how much money we're spending, so when we're talking to the concerned citizens and they say, out of hand, the golf course is a money sucker. Well, I don't have an answer, and they come up with, and how are you spending this money? And I don't know again.
Well, we have all those figures, yes.
Okay. So when we get a report, is the executive report itemization of additional
We can do that.
O&M that we're doing beyond the 10,000, or when we take over that $10,000 threshold from Paradigm?
We can do that, but
Or we're not
again,
voting.
all other large ticket items have been handled through contract amendment. This one was not, because it was around $10,000, and I felt we needed to move to reduce the liability, because if somebody got hurt out there, it wouldn't be Paradigm getting sued, it would be the city.
Okay, which is fair. So do we have a threshold on how much?
Well, right now, it's 10,000,
Yeah.
so.
Thanks.
Sure.
Is the main concern that we did something that Paradigm should have done? That we, the city, did something that Paradigm should have done financially under contract? Is that the main concern?
That's my concern, that we have them on contract to do X, and we're doing X.
And
It's-
is there a
it's-
mechanism in place that we can bill them for that and make them remunerated or in the contract? I mean, say, hey, because of expediency, we felt that this was a liability to our city, so we took action immediately to mitigate the liability, and this is what we did. But it should have been done by you more,
It was beyond $10,000, so they would push that over to us to do, say, city,
okay, maybe.
here's a problem, you
take
have a
the
liability
Take
problem, you need to
10,000 from
fix it.
them, and then.
But we shared the cost. The underlying land and the property are ours still.
Right, I get that.
Yeah, Paradigm is an
I'm just trying
operator.
to grasp what the germane issue is here. Accountability and transparency, that rules the day. If there's,
Right.
that should always be. If we've made an error in how we're line iteming something, we can correct that. If it's a FOIA issue or if it's a disclosure issue, we can always make the adjustment there. But I'm just trying to figure out, is that the issue, or is it an issue of a billing error or something?
I don't think it was a billing error, it's just a matter of how much, what was our threshold? That's my question, on this particular question, that's my question. What is this, is it $10,000, we come over, $10,000 becomes our responsibility if we choose to do it. You have made great
And
reasons, Chuck,
In this
for
case,
doing it.
in this case, we share the responsibility.
So in the future, we'll have some mechanism for us to be able to see what those
Yeah,
expenditures are.
I don't anticipate there'll be a lot of them, but the next one is the utilities and with the Schneider project, and we already have an agreement in principle with them, and we'll bring that back to you.
Right, thank you, I appreciate it.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Excellent. All right, thank you, City Manager, thank you. And our next discussion item is budget.
Yes.
Miss Jen, so good to see you. And she's still smiling.
You're talking about revenue too? What our revenues are?
Oh, got it.
I am not that tall. Desk is okay. Mr. Mayor, members of council, this is your first of many budget presentations for this year. I know you're as excited as I am.
Yes.
So let's get to it. So Arizona state requirements dictate that municipalities must present a balanced budget each year, or short. All expenditures must equal all the revenues budgeted in each fund. So keep in mind, we do have 21 funds. Some play nicely with each other and some don't. They all have to be balanced in every single one. So the first step in the budgeting process is to estimate all available revenue for the next coming year. This provides a base budget amount and gives a good idea on how much we can spend and any potential constraints for the next year. So there are three main revenue sources for municipalities. The first is local revenue. That's made up of taxes, fees, services, and bonds. The second is federal revenue, which is mainly grants. And the third one is state revenue, which we detail out later. So in this presentation, we'll take a look at all three revenue sources in different ways. So the first slide, before we take a look at next year, we're going to look at where we are currently in our budget. So this chart shows revenue budgeted versus actual revenue received for fiscal year 25 and to date for fiscal year 26. So my disclaimer is any column that's labeled to date for fiscal year 26 is not going to match for any additional slides. It's because when I pull the information, I do one chart at a time, and I do it over several days. So keep in mind the budget must include all potential revenue. A good example of that is when you look at the HERF fund. For fiscal year 25, the budget at $64 million, and then reduced for fiscal year 26. So moving down the chart, you're going to see the developmental impact fees that were suspended July 1st, 2025. If you look at the fiscal year 25 actuals, you're going to see the transfer out for park development and transfer out for transportation impact fee. So park development went into CIF, transportation went into the HERF funds, and that's to make the funds whole. So you'll see a transfer in for police and fire from CIF to make those whole. And then you see where it's balanced for fiscal year 26. For CCOM,
What are impact fees?
those are the ones that are, well, I'm trying to think of a good way to explain impact fees. So with development, they're fees collected from the developers. Or Chuck, would you like to take it? Yeah.
Oh, sure. Mayor McCaw, Councilmember Kilmurray, good question. Impact fees are generally associated with development of new homes. They're assessed for different categories, such as public safety or transportation, streets, et cetera. And it's paid upon the sale of the home in the development. Basically, what happened was our development slowed down to next to nothing. There are requirements to spend that money within a 10-year time frame, and it just wasn't feasible for us to keep trying to collect impact fees and then apply them to a project because it wasn't generating enough money to do so. So council then voted to eliminate the impact fees. Which, of course, does help in terms of the price of a house as well. So there is a benefit to doing that. So that's.
So the decrease to the CCOM fund is shifting the fiscal agency to county, but we did budget for fiscal year 26 the city employees that remained as dispatchers. As you can see for the debt service line, the transfer for fiscal year 26 is closer to the end of the year. And then for the internal services is our self-funded insurance that also occurs in June as well. So those are going to be low. The enterprise funds are doing well, and as a whole, fiscal year 26 revenues is on track for this time of the year. So let's take a look at the fiscal year 26 current budget broken down by major fund. So again, this does not include all the funds, but it does include allocations taken out of the general fund and placed in its appropriate fund. So I think this is a good time to go over what an allocation actually is. So there are certain departments within the general fund that provide assistance to other funds like human resources, IT, financing, facilities, engineering. So once the general fund is balanced, a percentage of those departments' personnel and O&M costs are calculated and then reallocated into the fund that's actually using that resource, particularly HERF, sewer, and refuse. So any changes in the general fund to those departments means we have to recalculate and then rebalance all those funds. Excuse me. Any questions on the fiscal year 26 budget? Okay. So we've seen a snapshot of the current budget. So let's look into fiscal year 27 revenue projections by major category. So instead of looking at it by fund, this is a different way to look at the revenue. So let's take a look at the city sales tax, for example. The chart shows the total amount for the city sales tax within two funds, in the general fund and the capital improvements fund. if you look at property tax is in the general fund. So is the franchise fees, the license and permits. Grants are in all funds. Local government payments are in all funds. State shared revenue is in general fund and in HERF. Prop 207 is in general fund. Health and accident has its own fund. As you can see, this is a category within certain funds. So this is why if you want to know if we collect X, Y, Z, I'm going to ask you, do you want it by fund or do you want the whole total category? So when you see the sewer revenue listed on this slide versus on a later slide, the numbers are going to look different. Because on this slide, it's just going to be the service charges and the collection fees. And the other chart you're going to see, it's going to include grants, depreciation, and other revenues. So projections are calculated using historical trend analysis and actuals from the current year. So keep in mind, these are very, very rough numbers, and they're going to change. Any questions on the major categories?
Jen, what, PRL is Parks, Rec, and Library, right?
Yes.
So where are the inputs? Is that like fees for the pool use?
Aquatics, rentals, any of the sports, any of the community events, senior trips, any classes, adult classes.
Is our revenue share from the golf course in there, or is that elsewhere?
I believe that is going to be somewhere else. I'll find out exactly where it is and get back to you.
Okay. And before we leave the slide, Mayor McCaw, members of the council, two things to look at in particular that have us concerned about this coming year's budget. First, the city sales tax that's locally generated. You see the actuals from fiscal year 24, 27 million four, and you see our projected revenues for fiscal 27, 27.3. So and that reflects the flat revenues that we've been experiencing over the last few years. You see that's our largest revenue source as well. So that's what's making it hard to absorb additional costs going into the next year's budget. The other one is the second largest one, which is state shared revenue, and you see an actual decline from 26.2 to 22.6 for this coming fiscal year. And of course, that was primarily due to legislative changes that have caused us to lose quite a bit of revenue there. So that is a significant number for us to deal with. Yes.
Chuck, what is the city's sales tax? Of the 8%, how much is ours?
1.95.
1.95, and that generates this this figure.
So as you've been briefed throughout the year, the city sales tax has been relatively flat. That's why we project no increase for next year. The property tax levy rate is proposed for fiscal year 27 at 0.0993. We reduce it every year to keep the same total for the community. However, the increase in the projected amount generated $399,527. That's due to new construction. Franchise fees are trending down. License and permitting is slightly up from last year, and that's building permits, business licenses, right-of-way. Grants, that's all of them. We're going to be working through, that's still in the process. So that one right now is about the same as last year. Local government payments is like the Fort EMS contract or Cochise College, things like that. That's still being worked through as well. State shared revenue we'll go over in the next slide. Health and accident or the employee premiums, those are level with fiscal year 25 right now. Ambulance fees are trending up. Public safety fees, those are level as last year. GMC revenue, that's government maintenance center, that's fuel cells, labor, parts, and fluids. The costs are going up, so that one's trending up as well. Transit revenue is from the lease revenue. We do not charge a transit fare. That's trending up as well. Airport revenue is fuel, the hangars, and the tie downs. And that right now is a little bit lower, but we are entering fire season, so we'll keep an eye on that to see if that one's going to be projected higher. The sewer revenues, as I said before, these are the sewer charges and the connection fees. Those are going to be up. Refuse revenue, that's service charges, mulch and compost. Those are trending up. PRL revenue, that's sports community events and rentals. Those are trending up as well. Planning revenue is abatements and vacant housing. That one we kept level. All the development fees have been suspended. That'll show 0. Investment income is slightly up, but we'll keep an eye on that to see if we need to take that down. Donations have been trending down. Sale of fixed assets have been level. So the last 3, notes payable, carryover, and miscellaneous, those were just kept the same as fiscal year 26 because those numbers we don't ever know until closer to the end of the process. So right now, we project revenue for fiscal year 27 close to $130 million. Any questions so far? Yes, sir.
Jen, on transit revenue, you said that's trending up, but we're not collecting fees, and that's how is it trending up if we're not collecting fees? And is that separate from grants? Or does that
Yes.
include the grants we get for
No,
transportation?
grants is the separate line.
Right.
So the transit revenue is just from lease revenue for, I believe it's from the tower and then from the buses that we advertise on buses.
Yes.
So what was the other one? I didn't hear, I'm sorry.
The tower, the
tower.
communications tower that's at the transit center. We have a lease for that, so we get money for that.
Yeah. Thanks.
So now let's take a look at the state share revenue projections. So as Chuck was talking about, we received league's preliminary numbers at the end of March, and they should send out the revised, updated version in May. So some historical background on state share revenue. So fiscal year 24 was the start of the state shared income tax increase from 15% to 18% to offset the state's adoption of the flat tax rate to 2.5%. Because of that 2-year lag between when the taxes are levied versus when they distribute it to the cities, we did a $2 million offset in fiscal year 24 and then a $1 million offset in fiscal year 25. So as you can see, the full effect of the new income tax rate hit us in fiscal year 26 as you see that lower number. Challenges for fiscal year 27 include the incorporation of Santan Valley that reduced our distribution, and then the possible tax conformity for new federal guidelines. So for income tax and sales tax shared revenue, we took the leads projection, and then we instituted a 5% reduction to more accurately reflect what we think we're going to receive. HERF and VLT, even though they are trending higher, we projected them level for fiscal year 26 and will reevaluate as the process goes along. Any questions on state shared revenue? Okay, this slide is a quick overview of fiscal year 26 and 27 revenue by major funds. Again, the fiscal year 27 numbers will change during the process. So you're going to see the general fund shows an estimated $735,000 decrease from fiscal year 26 currently. For special revenue funds, I expect those numbers are definitely going to change. We're still working through those. The capital improvement fund will change as we determine which capital items make the list and which projects need to be carried over. Carryover items are normally more solidified May and June. So debt service is going to decrease by $7,000. And then this slide is also what I referenced to earlier when discussing major revenue by major fund versus major category. So if you see the service charges for sewer and refuse are increased due to the rate increase approved by council. However, when you look at the revenue here, it doesn't show all of the grants or financing, carryover amounts, miscellaneous revenue, and so on. That's why it doesn't look like there's an increase overall, but that'll be added in later as we move through the process. Any questions on this slide? Fiscal year 27 debt projections. Fiscal '22 bond issue is the Snyder 1 project for $1.4 million. Fiscal year '24 bond issue is the Snyder 2 project for $1.8 million, with fiscal agent fees estimated at $4,000. So in fiscal year '27, we're expected to pay $3,239,292. So the refuse equipment financing ended in fiscal year '27, was removed from this chart. And then the last payment for the sewer payoff is expected in January of 2027. So then that one will come off as well. Any questions on the debt? So now we're at fiscal year '27 budget projections. So this slide gives us an idea on what we need to focus on for next year. The chart will change with each presentation, and then you'll see the progression as it goes closer to the end of the process. So we start with fiscal year '27 revenue projections and debt, and then we use a heavily estimated personnel expense that's still in review. This is definitely not the final number. We use the fiscal year '27 department requests so far, so this is our first stab at O&M. It still has not gone through the process yet. And then we also use the fiscal year '26 capital budget as just a reference as we go through the list. So there is a typo for the general fund fiscal year '26 capital number. I accidentally used the fiscal year '27 department request number. So that should actually be $4,473,466 with a net change of $2,306,130. So in the capital improvements fund, we're not expecting as large of a carryover as we did in fiscal year '26, so I kept that number level just for now. So we will keep the total net charge amount in mind as we move through the budget. So right now, everything is tracking for the process. Any questions on this slide? Okay. I'm going to actually skip to the next steps. Maybe. There we go. So the next steps in this process is the next work session on April 21st. We're going to go over all the capital, personnel, and O&M. That's going to be a lot of information for you guys. For May 12th, you're going to have your general fund balanced budget. The 26th, all the funds are going to be balanced. And then you're going to have your tentative budget books for May 22nd, right before the Memorial Day weekend. I know you guys spend that whole weekend reading that book. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
You mentioned HERF, they're expected to go up. Did you say that?
So the HERF for state shared revenue has been trending higher than they have anticipated sending. It's not that much higher, but right now we've kept it level just because of the tax conformity still up in the air, and to see how much we actually bring in for 26 to see what number we're going to end on 26. That's the same as VLT too.
Okay. We normally don't use those same words in the same sentence as HERF,
Yeah.
trending up.
I know.
Normally not a thing we
I was
would say.
surprised too. That's why I was like, I'm keeping it level for now.
Yeah,
Just to
and Mayor
keep an eye on
McCaw, Councilman Rodriguez, you're right, that's usually a pretty flat revenue source. However, costs, associated with street maintenance are going up dramatically, asphalt, oil costs, those kind of things. So, hopefully we'll be able to stretch that. But like other cities, we've had to use capital improvements funds, sales tax funds to augment our street maintenance, to do street projects and those kind of things. And my concern lies more there because of the sales tax situation.
Other questions? Thank you, Jen.
Yes.
And this propels us into our strategic plan.
You're stuck with me for strategic plan
Yes,
too.
ma'am.
So, Mayor and members of council, I'm happy to provide the fiscal year 2026-2027 strategic plan 6-month update. Sorry. This report goes to approximately the end of January, and I just wanted to point out that objectives and initiatives are marked as ongoing, as they are part of the department's annual operations year to year and don't have a specifically defined completion date. So at 6 months, all objectives are either ongoing or on schedule, and I'll list some highlights of what's been accomplished since January. So objective 1, relating to the pavement condition index survey and street conditions. This is marked on schedule. So staff has secured approximately $8 million in congressional appropriations to repair Buffalo Soldier Trail. In addition to annual neighborhood street maintenance, staff is also prioritizing one major road repair for the year. This year's effort is Julio Cesar. Also, the 0.85 mile segment of Wilcox from BST to 7th Street is on the SVMPO's Transportation Improvement Program TIP for fiscal year 28. Objective 2, reducing or mitigating unfunded liabilities for state retirement systems, is marked as ongoing. We're always working on this one. So because of the extra payments we make every year, the city's unfunded actuarial accrued liability decreased, which caused the requirement contribution rate to decrease as well. Per city policy, though, we will continue to budget the higher contribution rate for fiscal year 27 to further reduce the liability. So objective 4, effectively plan for and manage water resources. This is marked as ongoing. Fort Huachuco was successful in obtaining $1.8 million in funding for 2025 readiness, environmental protection, integration, or the REPI Challenge program. So the money was conveyed to the city as the Sprinka AMC fiscal agent and will be used to support monitoring, modeling, and management of the Sprinka. So we have an energy savings project at the Golf Center where we're prioritizing on decreasing water usage. Still finalizing the project, but the benefits would include saving several millions of gallons of water every year with smart irrigation upgrades and deturfing about 15 acres of grass. Initiative 8.1, referencing development airport infrastructure to support future growth, marked as ongoing. The 2025 National Defense Authorization Act authorized the Army to convey the 203 acres to the city. Staff submitted a letter of environmental requirements to the Corps of Engineers in January. As of March, we're still waiting for a response on the next steps. So while waiting, though, staff is pursuing possible congressional appropriations to extend that sewer line at the airport and then any upgrades to the communications infrastructure. Initiative 14.2, evaluate and determine OICC replacement options, marked on schedule. So last fall, the Sierra Vista Unified School District did express their desire to vacate Rothery on Fry Boulevard. Staff began assessing the property, recognizing the potential to house all of PRL operations under one roof. So considerations for potential acquisition will come to council and be included in the budgeting process. Initiative 16.1, the Transit Master Plan, is on schedule as of January. So this is a good example of how it is difficult to determine where to stop on these updates and where to add a little bit more, because we know the routing study is complete and was presented to council in March 2026, and this item will be marked as complete on the next update. Initiative 18.2, the Vista 2040 General Plan, is marked as ongoing. Staff has been working hard to make the plan not only easier to understand, but also reach a wider audience this time. Communications created a video and posted it to social media, and also created an infographic to highlight certain aspects of the plan. Staff are also handing out business cards with the QR code for the engagement site, and then they print and radio advertisements are also in the works. That concludes my highlights, and I'd be happy to answer any questions or direct it to staff.
So much, ma'am. From the dais, any questions, comments?
Just to her last item.
Yes, ma'am.
Good job, Jen, by the way.
18?
Yeah, on the general plan, they're also, the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff are putting on a meeting, but it's only going to be for public comments on the general plan. It's nothing voted on, and it's going to be at the Ethelberger Center on May 5th at 5 p.m. Yeah, that's what it is.
Questions, comments from the dais?
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you, Jen. Look forward to our many meetings.
Every other week.
All right. we have reports on meetings, recent trips, meetings, and future meetings. Guys? Any reports?
Oh, I have arts and, I'm looking at this. I have Arts, Humanities, and Cultural Diversity Commission meeting tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. At 4:30 p.m. at Oscar Urine Community Center, and a Neighborhoods Commission on the 13th at 4:30 up here. Oh, yeah, let Mom know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any others? All right, future discussion items and council requests, ma'am.
Thank you, Mayor McCaw. Right now, I'm tracking, you have a presentation by Dan Valle on a potential Buffalo Soldier City designation and feasibility of a museum. You also have your next budget presentation on capital O&M and personnel, and then Mr. Rodriguez requested that the discussion on call to the public continue at that work session as well.
All right, excellent. Any other questions? We'll see you on Thursday. Chief.
We talked about this and I missed it.